For our yin practice today, we're going to start right in our first pose. So we're going to start with a wide-legged child's pose or wide-kneed child's pose. So bringing the bolster close in, the knees nice and wide. Go ahead and let yourself release down over it. If you have the gift of a sandbag as part of your home practice arsenal of props, then you can put that sandbag across the hips, which provides a little more grounding and comfort to the pose. Make sure you have all the weight off of the shoulders. And we'll settle in here today. There will be no music today, so if you want to play your own gentle, sweet playlist, music that helps you tune in and relax, you're welcome to do that. Silence is also really good. Listening to the sound of the breath with that ujjayi quality, that sound like ocean waves or wind through the trees. That in itself is a really beautiful access point for going deep inside. So, as we connect here with our breath and the opening to our practice, become aware of the many layers as they begin to release. So, we have all these aspects of our being. We have what we can see, our physical body, but so much of our experience is unseen. So, from the densest part of us to the lightest, most subtle part of us, welcome in a true letting go. Welcome in a real softening and a yielding. Becoming aware of your breathing. And begin to notice where the breath originates in the body. In which part of the body does the breath begin? Tuning into that very origination of each inhalation And watching as the breath expands from that starting point. And letting your hands come under the shoulders, we'll come up out of our wide-kneed child's pose. Bolster comes off the side, and from tabletop, extend a leg behind, pressing back through the heel, or you're welcome to take down dog if that feels good for you in your practice. Next, onto the belly for Sphinx pose, tending to the lower back. The feet are nice and wide, resting onto the forearms. And you can either stay here or you can rest your forehead onto a block if that feels good. I'm going to read some today from the Tao of Healing, which is a translation of the Tao Te Ching from the perspective of healer and healing. Attune yourself to personal energy. Attune yourself to personal energy. Feel it flow like water. Jagged stones of firm belief, smoothed into nothing. Cleansing, clearing, nurturing, healing. Follow it faithfully, honestly, spontaneously. Let it empower and serve. Emotions are energy too. When they flow the most, they hurt the least. Attune yourself to personal energy. Feel it flow like water. Jagged stones of firm belief, smoothed into nothing. Let's release down, bringing one ear down to the mat, hands by the hips. Send your breath like a balloon into the lower belly and back. Noting which ear is down on the mat. So we can do the opposite next time. Let's come up again into Sphinx. So we hold our personal energy, the energy that we feel flowing like water. We're aware of that personal energy in the navel center, in the lower back, in the belly button area. allowing for a deep softening and release through the gut. And noticing the simplicity of this practice. We're here in a posture that we have been in countless times before. But when we meet this posture with our presence, with our conscious awareness, when we are engaged with the sensations arising from the body, the pose itself becomes alive, and our experience of it inwardly is unique, though outwardly we've held this shape for minutes, maybe hours, cumulatively. So stay with the freshness of this moment. What are you feeling right now? What are you learning right now? We'll release down and bringing the opposite ear from last time down onto the mat with hands back by the hips. Breathing like a balloon into lower belly and back. And feel a growing spaciousness in the belly and the side waist and the lower back. Stretching with the breath from the inside out. With hands under shoulders. Exhale belly to spine so the lower back is supported through the core strength. Come through tabletop. Yep. And now let's bring the knees together and sit back towards child's pose with knees together. But bring either a bolster out in front of you or blocks out in front of you. I'm going to use this big bolster that I have to create as much space for my shoulder stretch as possible. So my knees are together and my arms come out over the bolster. My forearms and wrists are in line with the shoulders. The head will drop down so you can rest your forehead onto the bolster if your neck needs that kind of support. You can put your forehead onto a block. You can let the head hang. We're just going to enjoy these breaths here in our child's pose with this release through the armpit and the shoulder. Now in this one, as you feel the breath, because the thighs are so close into the belly, deep belly breathing is not exactly comfortable. So as you focus on the expansion of your breath, rather expand out through the side body. So when you breathe in, feel the sides of your ribs moving out to the sides of the walls. And instead of, that belly coming out really deeply, rather see how broad you can make the chest with your inhales. As if you could feel the muscles between the rib bones, the intercostal muscles stretching. If you need a little more for the shoulders now, try bringing the palms together and interlacing the fingers. And if that too still feels pretty easy for the shoulders, then bend at the elbow and bring your interlaced hands towards the base of your neck, putting a bend in the elbow. We'll release this pose, coming up sweetly and slowly. Slide your blocks or your bolster off to the side. Find tabletop. And we're going to go a little deeper into the shoulders now. Come down onto the forearms and pivot on the left elbow. So your left forearm will come parallel to the top of your mat and your right arm will be extended. Yep. Then drop your forehead down onto the forearm. So now we're just focusing on one side, letting the heart melt down to the floor and getting that really lovely, delicious stretch into the right armpit and shoulder. Listen to the sound of your breathing and let that rhythm take you deeper in. Okay, coming up nice and slowly, take your time. Please honor any need to move slowly. Find tabletop. Shift the hips forward a bit so there's more weight in the hands. Drop the head. Press down through the hands and angry cat. Lift the back of the heart. Feel your shoulder blades separating. And then return again to tabletop. We'll do the other side, coming down onto the forearms. Now the right elbow will pivot and the right forearm becomes parallel to the top of your mat. The left arm is extended out in front and you'll release the forehead down to rest on the forearm. The hips stay above the knees. Noticing where you are in your mind in time and space. Stay present. Stay right here, right now. And we'll slowly come up out of this. Again, honoring any of that angry cat once more. So reversing that action through the shoulders, finding the stability and strength of the arms, lifting the back of the heart up and up. Good. Take a seat and send your legs out apart from each other. We'll lean our right elbow. So we'll lean to the right first. Right elbow comes down onto the thigh or maybe the shin or maybe even the floor. And if you have a sandbag, use that sandbag on this left hip crease to create some weight and anchoring on the left side. And we'll get this left rib cage up out of the left hip. So we're getting really deep into the side. So we just opened up through the armpit and the shoulder. And now we're getting down into this deeper, lower aspect of the side body. So you can keep your hand down. With your supporting hand, you're welcome to hold your head if you need that. You can also let the head hang if that feels good for the neck. You can also then bring your hand overhead and let the arm kind of curl over the head or bring the hand to the base of the skull. This will quite intensify that pull along the side body. So just find the option that's right for you today. Now we'll send the fullness of our breath into left side body, feeling that left sitting bone rooting and grounding down and down and down to the floor. Perhaps the eyes close here as you go deep inside. To penetrate the hardest armor, use the softest touch. Yielding melts resistance. Density is filled by light. Good work accomplished without effort. In silence, the teachings are heard. In stillness, the world is transformed. To penetrate the hardest armor, use the softest touch. Yielding melts resistance. Density is filled by light. Good work accomplished without effort. In silence, the teachings are heard. In stillness, the world is transformed. Let's make our way slowly back up. So use all the support that you need to get the torso to come back up. We want to go very slowly. That's such a deep stretch for the lower back. Pause at the top. Feel your two sitting bones root down. Feel the spine coming neutrally and naturally out of the pelvis. Okay, with eyes open, switching the sandbag to the opposite side if you're using that. Left elbow comes down onto thigh or onto shin or onto floor. And maybe support the head with the hand. You also can always put a bolster on top of the thigh so that you don't go as deep. If that feels good for the body, it's always a good option. And then choosing, maybe you keep your right hand down, or maybe you bring your right arm up and let it curl around the head, or maybe you can hold on to the base of the skull. And keeping your right hip heavy to the earth and expanding the breath into right side body. Yielding melts resistance. Our culture certainly doesn't glorify yielding. Our culture glorifies force. We're taught that if we meet resistance, we can just plow our way through it, fight our way through it. To yield to resistance, to us, we're so conditioned to see that as weakness. How can we surrender? What does surrendering mean? Is surrendering the opposite of strength? These are really valuable questions. And letting the hand release down and using support for your body as you come back up to neutral spine, eyes closed, and just take a few breaths here, letting everything calm down. The lower back can be speaking quite loudly after that posture. So we send the soothing balm of our breath all along the spine. All right. Use your hands to help you draw the feet together. Give the legs a little shake and rock. We're going to come into a forward fold from here. So the feet are hips distance apart and they're totally relaxed. Just let your head begin to get heavy and draw you down into your forward fold using any combination of bolsters and blocks. If you want the forehead supported, sometimes it feels really good not to support the head and to really allow the weight of the head, which is quite heavy, to create an even stronger decompression or pull all along the spine. So the back is rounded, and we send our breath into that rounding, feeling the breath expand into the back ribs. Practicing surrender, practicing yielding, practicing meeting resistance with and embracing
softness. And then getting curious about that resistance, the nature of that resistance. Is it purely physical, or is there is the physical tension just a result of some deeper tension that we can't see from the emotional body or the mental body or the spiritual body? Sometimes it's purely physical, but other times there may be a belief that we're holding. And we may have an emotional reaction to that belief. And that may be manifesting through our physical form. So we just stay curious and open, taking what comes and letting a whole lot go.
The forgiving person carries no burdens, walks with a light step. One who has no attachments perceives perfection even in the burning of her own house. See the smoke? Everything moves toward God. Those who live without judgment have unshackled their souls and know the unmeasured tally of eternal suns. The compassionate person loves self, each deed a graceful act of unthinking kindness. The lover naturally sees each person as lovable, and in the untouchable, an opportunity to embrace. The fearful judge healer and wounded alike, but each one wounded has the heart of a healer, and each healer has known a wounded heart. The liberated soul sees disease as another remarkable journey. Fear not, friend. There is something to be gained from every illusion. Mm.
With the hands down, we'll come up vertebrae by vertebrae. Go very slow with this one.
Keep your head heavy. Keep the chin tucked. When the spine is lifted, then the chin can unwind. And feel the two sitting bones. Feel the crown of the head. Breathe between those points. Inhaling down from crown to sitting bones. Exhaling from sitting bones up through crown. And the hands come behind. Lean back, release the legs, shake them, lift the heart if you like, and shift your weight from hand to hand, throwing the head back. And we're going to come into a heart opener, a variation of fish pose. So don't use your highest bolster for this one. If your spine is relatively open, you can use a mid-size bolster. If your spine's on the tighter side, then a rolled blanket or the small pranayama shaped bolster will be great. Okay, we're going to come back and lying down Over the bolster, we may need even to have a block under the head if it feels too strenuous on the neck to let the back of the head come onto the floor. But if it's okay, let the back of the head come onto the floor. And now we can feel here that the front ribs are spread open, that the solar plexus, this diaphragm area, is getting a good release and stretch, and that the shoulder heads are heavy, heavy, heavy down to the earth. The arms are palms up. And we can feel too how the bolster is creating pressure along the spine and where the heads of the ribs attach into the spine. So often, if we're at computers or sitting on the couch or in our cars or wherever we may be, we have a heart that's collapsed and a spine that's rounded forward. So this posture is like an antidote for so much time that we spend in that shoulder slumped forward position. So breathe fully into the front part of the ribs. Let the solar plexus be spacious and free. And notice if there's anything hanging out in your solar plexus. This is where we experience anxiety a lot of times. You know, that saying, we have butterflies in the stomach. So as we really breathe into the solar plexus, allow it to expand and open, what's in there? So we're not applying our judgment to what we find, but we're moving forward with that compassionate embracing of what's here. In action, find stillness. Seek the simple kernel at the heart of every matter. See the greatness in a small, kindly gesture. Make forgiveness your intention, and your enemies are your allies. Love is perceived in all you meet. Civilized man, afraid of nature's simplicity, creates complex problems. The healer creates wholeness by loving whomever God has put in his way. When there is trust, promises are not required. When there is trust, the difficult challenge is met with joy. In action, find stillness. Seek the simple kernel at the heart of every matter. So slowly now lift your knees, bringing your feet onto the mat. Very, very slowly begin to pick the tailbone up off the floor. Yeah, very slowly. Good. And then press more into the feet. Lift the whole torso up until you can slide your bolster out to the side. And then bring your spine down onto the mat. You want to move slowly because it's likely there's some feeling of achiness or vulnerability in the joints. That's fine. Draw the knees into the chest. Rock a little side to side. And as you come back to center, let's just hold here for a few breaths. Knees into chest. Okay. Grab the bolster that you were just using, or grab a different bolster for spinal twist. We'll place the bolster between the shin bones, between the knee and the foot. The knees come down to the right side, all the way to the floor. And if you need to prop them up onto another bolster, that's fine too. Left arm extends out from the shoulders, spinal twist. And a sandbag either on top of the knee or on the left shoulder can feel really good. Noticing as you breathe if your breath feels any differently. We have done much today to free up the musculature around the rib cage, breathing into the front ribs, the back ribs, the side ribs. So just notice if there is a different sensation to the breath here. Bones at rest, bones heavy. We'll come back up slowly, nice and slowly, to center and make any adjustments that you need to make in your position. And we'll twist to the other side, letting the knees release down to the left side. Adjusting the sandbag if you're using one, reaching out through that right shoulder. Be with the fullness of every breath. Be with this resting here, which is such a incredibly balancing medicine for our nervous system, for our body. In a world that's on fire at all levels, our nervous systems need to find refuge. We need to find places of restoration, of a culture of being versus a culture of doing. We have to be strong and forceful in so many areas of our life just to get through our day. Our yin practice is where we get to balance that intensity out with surrender, with yielding, with softness. It's like we're exercising our letting go muscle. So if you must think of this as exercise, think of it in that way. We're strengthening our letting go muscle. We're strengthening our yielding muscle. We're learning how to be surrendered. Okay. Release the bolster, come back to center. You can either hug the knees in if you like, or just rest the feet onto the mat with the knees lifted. Again and again. Return like the mountain. Release like the ocean. Relax like the sky. And rest. Rest in the heart of pure awareness. Let's take that into our Shavasana. Either a bolster under the knees or lying flat. Go ahead and make any and all adjustments you need to be cozy in your final resting pose. Let your body drift down into stillness. Again And again, return like the mountain. Release like the ocean. Relax like the sky. And rest. Rest in the heart of pure awareness. And let's begin to deepen the breath now. Fingers and toes wiggling, hands and feet, arms and legs. Either inhale the arms up overhead or hug the knees into the chest. Roll over to one side and let's slowly press up and find a seat. So sit comfortably, and we're gonna finish with some alternate nostril breathing. So now we've worked through this past hour to really down-regulate the nervous system. And we're going to keep that going with alternate nostril breathing. So with your right hand, you make a peace sign and you bring those two peace fingers down to the pad of the thumb. So the ring finger and the thumb are sticking up and the pinky finger. This is what we bring to the bridge of the nose. With the left hand, you'll bring the index finger and the thumb to touch in Jnana Mudra. Okay. Inhales and are half as long as exhales. So our exhales will be twice as long. Let's exhale our breath fully. And close off the right side with the thumb. Inhale left, 2, 3, 4, and let's hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale right side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale right. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale left and hold. Exhale right. Inhale right and hold. Exhale left. Inhale left, counting to yourself. Letting the hand release down. Breathing through both nostrils equally. Palms touch at the heart center. And we'll seal our practice with our closing chant. Let's exhale the breath. And we'll inhale deeply together. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. By the light and the love of the truth, for the happiness and the healing of all beings everywhere in all the realms seen and unseen. We offer and dedicate the merits of our practice for the benefit of all that is, all that was, and all that ever will be. Thank you. And so it is.